Hi, and welcome to another story and another video in my One Company, One Story series. This time, Leafly. Here comes the amateur legalese. I began investing in companies and their stocks in the late 70s, but I'm not a certified investment professional. My style and history of investing is described in Dream, Invest, Live, a book I wrote by request, which came out as the Great Recession, or otherwise known as the Second Great Depression, began. Good timing, eh? Anyway, my personal finance blog, which is about my finances, that type of personal, is trimbethcreative.net. So just have a reminder, I am not an investment professional. This is not financial advice. This is just my opinion on companies that I find interesting. And this one's a little sad, unfortunately. I love the company's idea. Leafly has been around since about 2010, and it is a marijuana-based company. Makes it sound like it's built out of hemp walls and everything, but they started out as a information source, at least from what I knew, as where to find dispensaries, where to find different kinds of leaf. Hence the name. They actually started out with that sort of information because dispensaries didn't come along until, well, in Washington State, they weren't legalized until 2012, and they weren't open until 2014, or at least in my neighborhood. I think I see if I can find that. I actually found an article that had me on the cover. There we go, on the one on the right. That was I wasn't the first person. The first two didn't want to have their pictures taken, but that was October 25th, 2014. So goes back that far. And it was handy because what you could do is if you didn't know about the brands, you didn't know about the types of leaf, you didn't know about the different ways of handling it, it was a handy website for just collecting all that information at a time when some were probably just very cautious about uh, even mentioning it. For instance, there's that long line to get to marijuana, and only one of us wanted to stand up and get a photo taken. There were different times back then. But here's an example of, they have a 101 section with the how to consume all this stuff and how to prepare it, whatnot. And also what it does for and what it does to you, which is both sides of that coin. So it's a company that was a early mover. They had a good idea. They still, I think, have a good idea, and yet they're having some trouble. I usually save talking about the stock until last, but in this case, I just bring it up here because here's what's happened with the stock. They were doing fine. Well, at least trading about $10 a share. But then October 22, they laid off 56 people in one day. And 2022 since then has just not been good for them. They're now all the way down. I think they just announced, here we go, Leafly lays off another 21% of their workforce amid potential delisting from NASDAQ. I've seen other companies have delistings and survive. But to give you an example, this company is now valued at like $13 million. $13 million is a lot of money for a lot of us, but for a company, it's not much at all. And can it come back? I leave that to others to figure out. Like, this is not financial advice. But it's a simple story about a company that had a service. They were meeting an unmet need. They didn't go flashy about it, but they also didn't go quiet about it. It says here, 100 million visitors every year. That's a heck of a thing. And now they're actually, if you look up here in this top navigation bar, they're actually doing delivery, which is just the way the world is working now. Why go out and shop when the shop can come to you? So they have a fair sized database or partner base of retailers online, and so they're known. I find that very useful. I think they can be fitting a nice niche because it is odd and hard to understand what marijuana brands are. Uh, they're evolving. They're being evolved. Where we keep making new strains, and they do different things. Whether it's to help you sleep or to help you get high, the psychoactive versus the more medicative, I suppose. I know I use marijuana to sleep better, and other folks, of course, are using more for recreational purposes. It's not legal in all states, but yet it would seem like that these kinds of numbers that they should have a much greater, uh, well, health and wealth to their company, and there we go. Here down at the financials, and net income is up and down, up and down. So it hasn't been stable. And it's also partly because, I don't know that it's partly because, but I can imagine it being partly because the marijuana industry is still learning what its regulations are going to be. It has regulations, of course, but they still have tendency to have cash sales rather than credit card sales and things like that. So it might just be a bumpy session, but it also, early movers don't always survive. Early movers aren't always the best, or they may be the best, but they don't always make it, especially if somebody with more money comes in and then outcompetes them, or at least outmarkets them. When you say you're down 96.7%, well, I've had that happen in my personal life, and I can tell you that hurts. So that's the short version. I suspect that that's true. I was going to go find the data that shows that the percentage of folks in the United States that are in favor of legalization in places where it's not legalized keeps growing. I think it was a Pew Research study. And that says growing market, early on. Maybe this is just a temporary blip that was partly brought on by, well, I shouldn't speculate all that much. But we all know that the last 3 or 4 years have just been weird. And business models have been challenged in every industry, not just legal dispensary. And, well, Lord knows there are very few of those. So, with that, I'm going to bring this to a close. Like I said, it's a short one today. But it is LFLY Holdings. I hope they make it. I think they've got a great story. The other thing I find interesting for myself is I didn't even realize, where we go here, I like to buy local companies. And I live in the Seattle area, and here they are. Their IR contact, investor relations contact, is Seattle, Washington. So I can tell you that it was entertaining going to the Starbucks meetings because they were downtown Seattle, and there was free coffee. And I don't expect to go to a LFLY meeting and find free marijuana, but I am curious what the stockholders meetings would be like. If nothing else, there's probably lots of good jokes going on. So with that, I'll bring this to a close. Again, I am not a certified financial planner of any sort. I am author of Dream, Invest, Live, and I look forward to learning that LFLY has recovered and survived and thrived. Uh, Lord knows, I think they're doing a good thing for the world, even if it's not earth changing. It's at least helps a lot of people. I know this sort of thing helps me. I wish them well.